Today I began by myself and it's going very well. Solitude releases a lot of my expectation, and expectation is what f***ed me up.
So recently I decided to go on an overseas adventure, and I had a realization that kind of changed everything for me. Or rather, I remembered something. And hear me out. So every day we wake up and we are immediately bombarded with infinite amounts of bullshit. Bullshit news, bullshit traffic, bullshit work, bullshit bureaucracy, bullshit taxes, bullshit. It's like bullshit everything. And for what? So you can pay rent, put food on the table, so you can go to sleep and wake up to the same old bullshit. Like, how stupid are we? So anyway, this recent adventure of mine allowed me to strip the majority of the bullshit that is in my life. Now, generally speaking, I would say that my bullshit filter is pretty good at filtering out bullshit, but every now and again, the bullshit still gets in, and at times it can be overwhelming. But on this adventure, on the beautiful coast of northern Spain, there was only one thing that I had to do. Walk. A lot.
Here my only expectation is to sweat, potentially get sunburnt, and have a nice time in nature. I don't expect it to feel great. And at times it does feel great, which is great.
Every day was quite simple. I woke up and I felt pretty shitty because I'm not much of a morning person, but I didn't have the same anxiety that I would have in civilized world because I knew what I was doing. I had clarity. All I had to do was get up, brush my teeth, pack my bag, and walk. There were arrows guiding me to my next destination, and the most complicated decision I had to make was, do I have Spanish tortilla and coffee now or in 5 kilometers down the road? There was little to no choice required. All I needed was the willingness to get to my next destination. Now I know what you're thinking. You're like, David, I can't just go and walk all the time. I have a job. I have commitments. I don't like exercise. That sounds great for a hippie like you, but what about us civilized people? Well, my friend, don't fret, because I too am a civil man. And there are some very valuable lessons that we can take from this journey and apply to our busy lives here in civilization. I don't think that traveling has all of the answers to the problems of life, but I also don't think that living a settled life does either. However, I do believe that a lot of wisdom lies within the balance of the two. It's become very apparent to me over the last few years of my life, and also just from having conversations and working with people, that the biggest challenge that we face, where most of our frustration, anxiety, lack of progress comes from, is as a result of a lack of clarity. When we lack clarity, we're particularly vulnerable to the bullshit that life has to offer. If you don't have clarity of purpose and intention, the moment something inconvenient happens, it's going to scatter your attention. It's going to scatter your mind. You're going to feel a sense of dis-ease. Your nervous system will dysregulate as you are triggered. However, when you have clarity and something inconvenient happens, it's quite interesting how our response differs. With clarity and inconvenience, you simply acknowledge the inconvenience. You then focus back on what your goal was in the first place, and then you act in accordance with what's in front of you and where you're planning to go to. With clarity, there's no big ordeal or frustration, confusion. It's just a matter of, this thing is now preventing me from the place that I aspire to go. How can I now, with this new information, with this new event, experience, occurrence, how can I get to my goal? And so then we start to innovate. But you need to have that goal and that clarity in order to get there, in order to make your way there. One of the biggest reasons that people don't achieve their goals or even start working toward their goals in this life is because of the phenomena called choice overload or analysis paralysis, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm talking about. Now, of course, it is a first world problem. It's a very privileged problem to have so many choices in front of you that you just can't decide. Like, oh, the tragedy. There's too many items to choose from on the menu. I'll just have to get them all. You know, it doesn't really seem like much of a problem, but when you actually realize the energetics and the nuance to it, you actually do see that for you, it is a big problem. It's actually better to have limited resources than it is to have too many, because when you have too many, it's harder to keep focus. It's harder to find clarity because there's too many things siphoning your energy. There's too much bullshit for you to trip over. If we relate this to our goals in life, maybe you have a bunch of different goals around like business, relationship, life, fitness, and you start doing one and then you kind of get bored of it and then you stop and then you start doing another one. You get bored of that, you stop, you start doing another one. And then before you know it, years have gone by and you've half-assed begun a bunch of things, but you haven't actually got anything to show for it. And this is when you end up in the situation where you look back at your life and you're like, what did I do with all of those years? You probably just did a bunch of small things and never really got anywhere with them. That's pretty normal, I think, in this day and age. But you're here watching a video like this, and so we're more in tune, I think, with ourselves and the way we're interacting with the world, and we want to find new ways that are more supportive for us. And so that's what we're going to discuss right now, on how do we take this clarity, this idea of having a destination, a focus, such as a camino, a walk through the mountains, but how do we relate that to our civil life, to our business, and to our goals here in our houses, in our cities, whatever? Quite simply, we need to eradicate the options. When you only have one goal and you stick to that goal, the FOMO fades away. You're no longer wondering, oh, what if this, what about that? Because you just know you're going for your one thing. And when you commit to that one thing, then you are on your first step to living a life of clarity, because that's your anchor. You will always come back to that one thing. And when we have this anchor, when we have this one thing to come back to, we find ourselves in a state of relative balance and ease, because when shit hits the fan, all you need to do is remember, what was my focus? And then you go back to that. You might have a whole room just full of junk, a load of people that aren't supporting you, a load of habits that you're doing that are depleting you. Your clothes are strewn all over the floor. But even in that situation, if you remember what your goal was, what that one focus was, then you can still start moving toward it from where you're at. So you might say, okay, my laundry being in the corner for 3 weeks isn't really making me feel excited to move toward that point of focus. So therefore, I'm going to do my laundry. That's all you got to do today. Then maybe you realize that the person that you've been spending the most time with isn't supporting your vision and keeps planting seeds of doubt. And maybe then you decide, I'm going to spend less time with them. Or maybe you decide, I'm not going to talk about certain things with them because I've noticed they have a habit of responding in a way that I don't feel is supportive. So we're just going to talk about something else next time I see them. Look at where you are at, look at the things around you, and look at where you're trying to go. If the things around you are making it harder to get to where you're trying to go, make a change. When I was doing the Camino, I had to walk, and don't get me wrong, I had a lot of problems. You know, I had aching body parts. I was tired. It was hot. I was hungry. I was thirsty. I was having a lot of emotional episodes where I was reflecting on my life and relationships. These things were all coming up, but I was also still aware of my goal throughout all of these arising. Now, when these issues came up, I addressed them. I ate, I drank, I wrote in my journal, I got in the sea to help with muscle recovery and to cool down from the hot temperatures. And then I would sleep, rest, and get up and do it all again. Everything I did was with the intention to keep myself walking the next day. So after all of this, what is the key takeaway? Well, here's what I think. The way that you're currently living your life is not set in stone. If it's boring, you can spice it up. If it's overwhelming, you can dial things down a notch. Realize that you are simply running a program. You have installed a program in your life since you were born here on this planet. Over time, that program's been strengthened, and a lot of people aren't even aware that they're running a program. But when you become aware of the program, then you realize that you can actually uninstall the program. You can install new programs that maybe supplement your current program. Find a program that supports you in getting towards your goal. A lot of us have the program that life's hard and you're going to be poor forever. Well, I don't think that's a very helpful program. So instead, I installed a program that said, I have the power to create my reality. I can create a financial situation for myself that serves me and the people around me. And I'm excited for that. That's a much more empowering program, if you ask me. Have a look at the programs that you're running and see if you can make adjustments. Once you have an objective of sorts, put one metaphorical foot in front of the other. And when obstacles come in your way, act accordingly. But remember that point of focus, that clarity. If you get tired, take a break. If you need help, ask somebody. But keep your eye on the prize, because that is what it means to have clarity. There is going to be copious amounts of bullshit in your periphery. Ignore it. It will either disappear or you'll just forget about it, both of which offer the same result. Keep practicing, keep learning, be curious all along the way, and you are bound for success. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, check this one out next. You can sign up to my newsletter, link in the description. I put helpful stuff in the newsletter. If you like the videos, you might like the newsletter. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.